Hello again, our most valued student. My name is Confident and welcome to Eguru Tech's 24-minute lesson. Our lesson today will focus on coordinate geometry. And in coordinate geometry, we're going to look at the gradient of a straight line, the angle of inclination, distance between 2 points, midpoint of a straight line, equation of a straight line, perpendicular and parallel lines concept. Now, let us dive into the lesson. When we are looking at coordinate geometry, it is very important to know the gradient of a straight line because they will definitely ask you this in the exam, or the knowledge of you knowing the gradient of a straight line. However, these formulas are always given at the back of your paper. So when you go to the exam, there will be the formula sheet. So you're going to use that if ever you forget the formulas. When we are talking about the gradient of a line, we abbreviate it by using the letter M. So the gradient of a line, that letter M, it is equal to y2. As you can see, change in y value over change in x value. The change is this symbol. It means change. That's why you've got delta y over delta x. Another word is called delta, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now we're going to come back to the angle of inclination. So for this question, says find the gradient of the following lines and the angle of inclination. We're going to look at that. Now, when you're given this question, you're given 2 points, 2, 4, and 8, 12. Now, if you look at these 2 points, what you need to do is to mark them. You can make this point x1 and this point y1. Remember, coordinates are xy. You can make this one x2, so this one will become y2. So when you start to substitute, it will be m is equal to, in y2 you had 12 minus y1 is 4 over x2 was 8 minus x1 is 2. This will be equal to 12 minus 4 is 8 over 8 minus 2 is 6, which is equal to 4 over 3 in simplified terms. Then this is the gradient of the line. The next thing we're going to look at is find the angle of inclination. We're not talking about the angle of inclination. It says m is equal to tan theta. Now, how do you find theta as the angle? Theta is equal to arctan m. So what you need to do is you need to go to your calculator and you punch arctan, that value of m. In this case, they told us the value of m was 4 over 3. The value of m from our calculation there, it was 4 over 3. So we're going to say theta is equal to arctan 4 over 3. And if you use your calculator, theta will be equal to, it will be 53.1 degrees. Now with this 53.1 degrees, I want to make a sense of what we mean by that arctan. When you're drawing a line, a Cartesian plane, this is your y values and this is your x values. So when you look at this angle of inclination is 53, in other ways, it's less than 90. It's an acute angle. This is just a rough estimate. You are going to draw a straight line like that. Now, whenever you are looking at the angle, the starting point is you start from here and then you move clockwise, anti-clockwise direction. That is where you are having 53.1 degrees. That's what we mean. Remember, it is from the horizontal line. It is from the horizontal x-axis, and then after that, going anti-clockwise to the line is the angle of inclination. Let us move on to the next question. It says find the gradient of the following line and the angle of inclination. Remember, gradient m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now you have got minus 2 minus 2 and you have got minus 10 minus 10. If I can make this one my x1, this will become my y1, my x2, this will become my y2. Now when I substitute, I will have m is equal to minus 10, which is my y2, minus bracket minus 2. Be careful of that bracket because there are two negatives. And then my x2 is minus 10 minus again minus 2. If you simplify further, you'll have minus 10 plus 2 over minus 10 plus 2. Therefore, you are going to get minus 8 over minus 8, which is equal to a 1. So our m in this case, if I can put it here, our m is equal to 1. Remember the angle of inclination, theta, is equal to arctan 1. What is arctan 1? When you use a calculator, you will discover that arctan 1 is equal to 45 degrees. So theta is equal to 45 degrees. That is the answer. Moving on again, this question says find the gradient of the following lines. We did this one, and then determine, okay, we have done that one. The next question says determine the gradient of the line with angle 136. Now remember, they now want the gradient. What is the gradient? They just give you the angle of a line. So remember, you say tan theta is equal to m. Now what is our theta in this case? Our theta is 136 degrees. Remember, I'm working on this particular problem. So tan 136 degrees is equal to, so you're using a calculator, you punch tan 136, it will give you minus 0.97. So this is the gradient of the line. In other words, m is equal to minus 0.97. If you try to make sense of what you are writing there, let me draw a Cartesian plane like this. You have got your x-axis and you have got your y-axis. Now what you need to know is that a negative gradient is that direction. So here is a negative gradient. This is negative gradient, just in short. And then if it was a positive gradient, it would be a line like this. With this one, it means positive gradient. Hence, that's how we make sense of this. So whenever they were saying negative 136, so the angle that they are talking about, remember I said you start counting from the horizontal x-axis. If you look at it, if I start from here and then I go all the way to the line, then I'll get 136 degrees. That's what they are meaning for that. Let us move on to the distance formula. This question says the distance formula d, this is the formula you are given. If I can write it, d is equal to square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. This is a very important formula. You will find it in your formula sheet again. Now they gave us, what did they give us? They gave us minus 2, 6, and they gave us 8 minus 1. Remember, like previously, you have got your x1, your x2, your y1. Sorry, that's a big mistake I'm making there. Your x1, your y1, your x2, your y2. Don't make the mistake I made. Most students also make that mistake. If you punch this now, your x2 is 8 minus your x1, it's minus 2 squared. The best is to put a square bracket there, and then plus your y2. What is your y2? Minus 1, and then minus 6, and then you square. You can punch this once in your calculator, and then you can get the value of the distance formula. This one is not difficult. It has to rely on your calculator. The next one is the midpoint of a straight line. When we are looking at the midpoint of a straight line, m is equal to, so the midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2, and then y1 plus y2 over 2. And then the 2 points there, you have got 8, negative 1, and then you've got minus 2 and 14. So what do you do again? What like I did, this is your x1, this is your y1, this is the one below is your x2, and this is your y2. So your midpoint then will become your x1 there is 8 plus your x2 is minus 2 over 2, and then you have got your y1 is minus 1 plus your y2 is 14 over 2. So what are you going to have? You have your midpoint as 6 over 2 and 13 over 2. You can simplify to get midpoint as 3, and 13 over 2 can be 6,5. But you don't have to simplify the fraction, you can leave it as 13 over 2. So that is the midpoint. The most important one that I'm looking at now is called the equation of a straight line. This is the most important in this question because it is going to combine two things. It is going to combine the gradient of that line, the angle of inclination, as well as it will also involve the distance formula. Sometimes it involves the midpoint. Now there are two equations of a line. The first one that I want you to always know when it comes to the equation of a line is y is equal to mx plus c. What is that? The simple one is m is the gradient, remember, and c is the y-intercept. So if I'm to draw a Cartesian plane like this and say this is x and say this is y, and then I draw a line like that, that particular point here, it is your C. It's called the y-intercept, where it cuts the y-axis, and the gradient is m. You can calculate the gradient. So when you say C, the y-intercept, we mean where the equation cuts the y-axis. If I draw a line that is like this, therefore in this case you can see this is your C, though the C in this case will be negative. The second equation of a line is y minus y1. Let me use my red pen. Y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. Now, in this case again, your m is still your gradient. This is still your gradient. It's still similar, just that it's written in a different version. And your y1 and your x1 will be the coordinates that you'll be given. Let us look at these, and we use both equations to get the same answer. The question says, find the equation of a straight line that passes through the point. So I'm going to start with this equation of a line. Y is equal to mx plus c. Now the first thing I need to do is to find my m. How do I find my m? It's my gradient. Remember, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What am I given? I know my points are -1 and 2, as well as 2 and 8. What is that? The first one is x1, y1, x2, y2. So when I input that, my m is equal to 8 minus 2 all over 2 minus 1. So what is my m? My m finally will be 8 minus 2, it's 6 over 2 minus 1, 6 over 3. Therefore, m is equal to 2. So I know my gradient. How do I find my c? To find my c, after that, I'm going to say y is equal to mx plus c. I can choose any of the 2 points there. Suppose I choose 2 and 8. If I choose 2 and 8, I'm going to have, remember, in this case, I have got x1 and y1, or x and y in that case. So what I do is, I'm going to have, where there is y, I'm not going to put 8 is equal to my m. Remember, my gradient is at 2, and my x is at 2 plus c. The 2 and the 8, I got them from the end of the point. So you can choose a negative if you want. So take it. So 8 is equal to 4 plus c. What is 8 minus 4? It is equal to c. So now you can see that the value of c is equal to 4. Now you have got the value of m, you have got the value of c. Now if I can clear up some space here, this is now the final equation. Look how the final equation now is going to look. It is going to say, remember, it's y is equal to mx plus c. Therefore, it will become y is equal to, my m is a 2, is 2x, and my c is a 4, 2x plus 4. This is the equation of that particular line. Find the equation of a straight line. I did it using this one. Now let's do it using the second one. The second one says y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. Now guess what? In both sides the gradient is the same formula, so we don't need to find the gradient. We discovered from the previous version that the gradient was m is equal to 2. And now I'm going to choose the other point for, in case the previous we choose 2 and 8. Now what about if I choose minus 1 and 2 as one of the other points? If I choose minus 1 and 2, I'm going to now put them in the formula. Now minus 1 and 2 becomes my x1 and my y1. So you're going to have y minus, what is my y value? Remember my y1 is a 2, is equal to m, which is a 2, x minus 1. So you're going to have y minus 2 is equal to 2x, a negative times a negative is x plus 1. So y minus 2 is equal to 2x plus 2. Take 2 to the other side, y is equal to 2x plus 2. The negative on the other side, when it jumps, it will change to become a positive 2x plus 2. Y is equal to 2x plus 4. So the equation of a line is y is equal to 2x plus 4, which is the same one that we got here as y is equal to 2x plus 4. You can see that both formulas can lead us to the same answer. The next one we're going to look at is, we're going to look at more of this as we continue, but let us look at the new concept so that you can now incorporate everything at once. We're going to look at perpendicular and parallel lines. Just to make you remember, a perpendicular line is a line that meets at 90 degrees. It is like this. Those two lines is perpendicular. Sometimes you can get a line like this. As long there is that 90 degrees, the two lines are perpendicular. While parallel lines are lines that are having arrows like this, it means they are parallel. So this is perpendicular and parallel. Now there is a concept here that says, when you're looking at perpendicular lines, if you multiply m1 times m2, m1 times m2, it says you get minus 1. This formula is also there in your formula sheet. What is m1 and m2? If you multiply the gradient of the first line times the gradient of the second line, and if these lines are perpendicular, it will give you a negative 1. Sometimes you can prove, actually, you can find the gradient of the first line, you find the gradient of the second line. If you multiply them together, if they give you a negative 1, it automatically means that those lines are parallel. Now, they are perpendicular. This is for perpendicular lines. Now, for parallel lines, it says the gradient of the first line is equal to the gradient of the second line. What are these? These are parallel lines. Remember, parallel lines will never meet. Now, having gotten that information, look at the question. It says, calculate the equation of a line that goes through points 2, 3, and that is parallel to the line y is equal to 2x plus 1. Now, let me look at the key words there. It's parallel, and it goes through this point. Now, we're given the line y is equal to 2x plus 1. Now, what am I going to write? Let me write the general equation of a straight line. It's y is equal to mx plus c. Now, what am I doing? I'm trying to find from this line what is my gradient. And you can see, if we match well, this is my gradient. So from looking at this, I can see already that my gradient of the line is what? That line is 2. We'll call it our m1. So when we got the gradient of the first line, now remember the question says calculate the equation of a line. That line goes through the points 2, 3. So now you can use that equation, y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. Now you have got a point 2 and 3. Remember that particular line passes through 2 and 3. This will be your x1, this will be your y1. So now you know the gradient is what? Is 2. So you're going to say y minus 3 is equal to 2, and then you're going to have x minus 2. So y minus 3 is 2x minus 4. So y is equal to 2x minus 4 plus 3, and then y is equal to 2x minus 1. Therefore, the equation of a line is 2x minus 1. Then that becomes the answer. Now, looking at it again, calculate the equation of a line. Now we're looking at a line perpendicular to the line y is equal to minus 4x plus 2, and that passes through this particular point. And you know, for perpendicular lines, that is the trick. M times m1 is equal to that. So I'm going to write this equation that we're given. Y is equal to minus 4x plus 2. Remember, I'm matching it to y is equal to mx plus c. And if I match well, you can see now what is my gradient there. My m1 there is equal to minus 4. Now I want to find the gradient. Remember, these lines are perpendicular. Now what does it say? It says if you take m1, you multiply by m2, you get minus 1. So I want to find the gradient of the other line. So I've got my m1 is 4, negative 4 times m2 is equal to minus 1. I must divide both sides by minus 4. Minus 4. Why? Because I want to find my other gradient. So the other gradient will be m2 is equal to negative that, divided by negative that is equal to 1 over 4. That is the gradient of the second line. Remember, these lines are perpendicular. They meet at 90. So if this one is m1, that line, that gradient will be m2. So if this is negative 4, here is negative, is facing this direction, the other one is positive, it will face that direction. Now when I've got the gradient of the line and I've got a point, so let me write it. I've got a gradient, m is equal to 1 over 4, that's my m2, and I've got a point. They gave me the point as minus 1, 2. Now remember, this become my x1 and my y1. I now use the equation y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. What am I doing there? So that I substitute y minus y1 is 2 is equal to m 1 over 4, and then x minus minus 1. Then y minus 2 is equal to 1 over 4, x plus 1, and y minus 2 is equal to, multiply there, 1 over 4x, plus, you open up that bracket, 1 over 4, that is expanding. You multiply there, you get 1 over 4x plus 1 over 4. So you've got y is equal to 1 over 4x plus 1 over 4. Now when 2 jumps this side, negative 2, it will change the sign to become plus 2. So what are you going to have in the final equation? Y is equal to 1 over 4x 9 over 4. Then that becomes the equation of a straight line. Remember, this one is in the form y is equal to mx plus c. What is your c? It's 9. What is your x? There. What is your m? There. And what is your y? Is that. So this is how you approach it. So now, when you look at these problems, remember again, you have to identify whether is it a perpendicular line, is it a parallel line. Then if it's perpendicular, if it's parallel, then you use the concept of perpendicular and parallel lines. We have come to the end of our lesson. We will continue this lesson of the coordinate geometry in the next session, whereby we will look at a combination of these questions as they bring them in an exam. Thank you.